Hey guys, welcome back to another pickleball tutorial video. Today we're going to be tackling the top spin serve in pickleball. In this video you will see the two different types of serve that you can have. You can have more of a power stance and more of a uniformal stance, and we'll talk about the off of the air or the bounce serve with some top spin. So let's get right into it. Alright, so let's tackle this top spin serve. We're going to start with the power stance, which is when you have one foot in front of the other. The stances don't really matter. Some prefer one way, some prefer the other, and we'll talk about both. And so when you do a flat serve versus a topspin serve, the difference is where your paddle face is looking. When you do a flat serve, your paddle face is going to be facing towards the sky, which is great to get height, consistency, and depth, right? Which is a great way to start serving. But if we want to generate spin, that's not going to be a great way to do it. We want to have a pretty flat paddle face when we generate spin. Now, how do we do that? Let's reverse the process. Let's go out in front of us, right, where we're going to make contact with that ball, and let's have our flat paddle face, right? We want to have it parallel with the net. So we're going to have a flat paddle face, and we're just going to reverse the process. Bring that paddle face back, and don't change your wrist. You can see my wrist is bent backwards, and that's how I'm going to be able to generate that spin. When you make contact with the ball, pull up with your forearm. That's going to be the most important part. If you don't pull up with your forearm, you're just going to have a flat serve with a little bit of topspin, not as much. So a power stance serve, you're going to want to bring it back and unleash forward, but you see my wrist did not pronate through the shot, right? I kept my wrist back throughout the entire shot. Even on the follow through, I was still up. So make sure you keep that wrist nice and steady. My grip strength is about an 8 or 9 out of 10. Think about it like a ground stroke. Now, if you have more of a uniformal stance, which is what the pros are using today, which is where you have your legs kind of together, put your weight on the right side of your leg. You should feel it on your thigh and your calves. Your left leg is used as stability and balance. Ideally, I can almost do it with one leg, right? But let's just use that leg for fun. We're going to place that ball above our knee and below our hip, right? Because of the rules. I typically place it right in between both, and it's important to come underneath the ball. The form and everything else is the same. And you can see I can unleash just as much power there. Let's talk about some tips. How to add some power. If you are doing a power stance, you can step into it. That is a great way to add some power. If you are doing a either of the stances, you can use more power with your hip, right? Those golf folks out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Load it in with your hip. You can see my weight kind of shifts towards the right, and I can bring that hip back, right? We're going to bring this hip back. We're going to keep our tension and our form forward, and we're going to unleash forward, right? Don't unleash unwinding yourself that way. Unleash forward. So we're going to load that hip in and unleash forward. You can see I did a little bit too much this left way and it went out. So we're going to do it again. We're going to unleash forward, and you can see, boom, that shot was in. And finishing in front of you and then above is fine. In front of you is super important. Do not let that ball get in between your foot and your body. That is going to cause you to miss the ball into the net. The next step I can give you is don't hit above the ball, right? You always want to come underneath the ball and kind of drag it up, right? You want to brush it up. It's important to brush that ball. If you don't see any spin on your ball, that means your paddle face isn't flat enough and you're not bringing it up. You're pushing through the ball. You want to bring this ball up. This form right here, this forearm and this motion is what's generating power. All right, now let's talk about the bounce serve, okay? Tennis players out there, you guys are going to love this. When you do the bounce serve, the footwork's similar, right? You can do it uniformal or you can do it in a power stance. I typically tend to do more of a power stance when I do a bounce serve. And then let's talk about the drop, right? If you drop way below here, you're not going to get any higher on that ball, right? We talked about how much we need to get under the ball, and we're not helping ourselves if we bounce the ball this high. Instead, what we should do is bounce the ball as high as we can be, right? So we're going to bring that arm all the way up and get low, get nice on your knees here. And then we're going to bring this down and through. The one thing about the serve is that you can cheat the rule about your wrist, right? When you bounce the ball, when you serve, the rule about the hip and the wrist, the paddle head above your wrist, go away. So you can kind of whip that serve a little bit more, right? So tennis players that love to kind of whip that topspin, this is going to be it for you. So drop that ball and kind of whip through with your wrist. And this will take a little bit more wrist control because I am moving my wrist kind of in a windshield wiper way. I am not kind of keeping it steady like before. We're kind of whipping it through with the serve. The most important thing is don't let that paddle head control your wrist, right? You need to have the wrist control the paddle head. So we're gonna again drop the ball and unleash forward. You wanna make sure again that you get under the ball, right? That last one I get on top of it and it hit into the net. So make sure that we drop the ball and unleash underneath the ball and go forward. The hips and the stepping into it are a great way to add power. So if you don't see enough power in your serve, mess around with those. And yeah, so that was a top spin serve. Thanks, guys.